Do you trust the FBI? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, the Kuhner man, I am finally back. Just apologies to everyone. Obviously, I wanted to be on the air last week, January 2nd. However, alas, I got extremely bad news during the Christmas break. My father, Jack Wendell and Kuhner, passed away at the age of 81. And so actually I'm broadcasting today and most likely the rest of this week from Montreal, Canada, as we did the wake, we did the funeral, we're going to cremate, we've actually cremated the body, and now we're going to have his burial later today, and then I have to settle his will and other assets of regarding his estate. So I'm going to be in Canada probably for the next 3 or 4 days. It's a difficult time for me, obviously. My dad is going to be incredibly missed. He passed away from severe complications due to Parkinson's. And so it has really been a very bad week for the Kuhner man and the family. But we have rebounded. We're resilient. My dad is in a happier place. As I said in my eulogy for my dad at his funeral on Friday, I don't wish this on any human being. I not even on my worst enemy, to endure what he endured for 10 years. He ended up being a prisoner in his own body. And so in some ways, it's a relief. Obviously, I love my father very much. I miss him very much. So does my sister, who's here with me, and my whole family, Grace and the kids. But in a way, the suffering, the torture, the cruelty is finally over. So, again, my apologies for not being on the air last week. The Kuhner man is back, and I plan to be on the air the entire week and obviously the rest of the year. Okay, the big story, and there's a lot, obviously, that's happened. But without question, one of the big stories that still remains in some ways unresolved is the terror attack that took place in New Orleans New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, very early in the morning, in which Shamsuddin Jabbar, a 42-year-old Army veteran, apparently, according to his family, radicalized into Islam, radical, fundamental, militant Islam, over the last year, drove a rented pickup truck onto a crowded street, Bourbon Street, in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and began to plow down pedestrians. In other words, another vehicle attack by an ISIS terrorist. And as you know, this is now almost becoming their favorite method to go out and kill people. In Nice, France, about 9 years ago now, they used a truck and plowed down people right on the sidewalk, 86 dead. They did this in London. They've done this in Germany multiple times. They did it a few years ago in New York. Well, this time they struck in Louisiana, in New Orleans. 14 dead, over 30 to 35 injured, many of them in intensive care. And what was most shocking about the attack, and I knew it was going to happen, to me, obviously, we have allowed terrorism under this criminal Biden regime, and in particular, under this completely incompetent FBI, politicized, corrupt, incompetent FBI, to metastasize. And so, frankly, I wasn't surprised. I knew something like this was going to happen. It was bound to happen. But what I couldn't believe was the special agent in charge in New Orleans, Althea Duncan, initially, now remember, this is when the FBI tells the public there was a driver who had 2 IEDs in the pickup. They found 2 improvised explosive devices inside the pickup truck. loaded with explosives, with a black flag, the ISIS black flag, flying from the back of the pickup truck as this person deliberately ran over, mowed down, and systematically murdered 14 innocent civilians who were just out there enjoying New Year's Eve, New Year's or early New Year's Day, celebrating the new year and the coming of 2025. And Althea Duncan comes out and tells the New York Post and other media that this, quote, was not a terrorist event, that this was not an act of terror. According to her, just because you mow people down, I swear to you, just because you mow people down, just because you fly the black flag of ISIS as you mow them down, just because you have these IED, these pipe bombs inside your vehicle, it doesn't mean it's a terrorist attack. Maybe he just got carried away partying. I mean, that part I'm adding, obviously, for comedic effect, but my point is, this is how incompetent the FBI has become. And when you see her with that pathetic nose ring that she's wearing, barely able to articulate coherent sentences in English, this is exactly what's wrong with the FBI. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And you just promote people way beyond their abilities, way beyond their talent, frankly, way beyond their professionalism. And so the FBI was caught lying again. And you have to ask yourself, why did they lie again? Over something, again, that was so obvious. It was an obvious terrorist attack. The thing screamed terrorist attack. So why? And I think it's obvious. Because the FBI has now become so thoroughly co-opted, so compromised, so hollowed out, as I said, so politicized under the Biden regime, that the only terrorism that they see is that of white supremacy. That's the directive that has been given to them from Joey and from Merrick Garland and from the leadership of the Justice Department and the FBI. The only terrorists are white supremacists. The only terrorists are MAGA, J6ers, today's Insurrection Day. Pathetic. Pathetic. So, here is now what we do know. The FBI, in the face of a mountain, overwhelming evidence, had to walk it back. Frankly, to the disgust of law enforcement in New Orleans, in Louisiana. Louisiana Senator Kennedy, John Kennedy, couldn't believe they even came out with that initial statement. Shamsud Din Jabbar was 42 years old. He apparently has had marital problems. He had 2 ex-wives, personal problems, financial problems. He was heavily in debt. He was someone who was an Army veteran, was deployed to Afghanistan in 2009, never saw combat. He was more of an IT specialist. But this is what is very odd. He got a degree from Georgia State University. He had a very good career in the Army. Once he left the Army, he had a very good career in the tech sector. He was making $125,000 a year. He was professionally on the rise. He was making good money. And yet, the marriages, the debt, the spending, eventually led him down a dark road. And according to his family, about the last couple of years, he began to embrace radical, fundamentalist, militant Islam. Videos began popping up on Facebook in which he celebrated and glorified ISIS. He talked about waging a jihad. He talked about the need now for him to be among fellow Muslims. and to start a war between what he called believers and disbelievers. And so the FBI and local law enforcement raided Jabbar's home in Houston. He lived in northern Houston, apparently in a heavily Muslim neighborhood. He attended what appears to be a radicalized mosque, the Majid Basil Islamic Society of Greater Houston Mosque. When they raided his trailer park home, they found bomb-making materials. Listen to this. Explosive compounds not seen or rarely seen in Europe or the United States. He traveled to Cairo, the heartland and headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood, just 2 years ago. Clearly, he had been planning and plotting this for a while. And inside his home was the Quran that was open to the specific passage in which it calls for a holy war against the enemies of Allah. My friends, this was an act of Islamic terrorism on American soil, and the FBI is trying to cover it up. 6:18 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. I want to wish all of you in Kuhner country a very happy, healthy, prosperous, blessed new year. Anyway, the Kuhner Man is back on the air. And look, I don't know about you. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the FBI as far as I can throw them. I have no confidence in the FBI. I have no confidence in their leadership. I don't believe them. To me, they have lost all public trust on whether it's about their integrity or about their competence. So here is now what they're trying to tell us took place in New Orleans. You tell me if you believe it, don't believe it. Shamsuddin Jabbar, apparently radicalized over the last couple of years, an Army veteran, became a devotee, a follower of ISIS. He apparently went to Cairo about a year and a half ago in Egypt and apparently visited the Muslim Brotherhood headquarters. He was able to get his hands on extremely rare compounds and chemicals. In fact, the kinds of compounds and chemicals, this is what the FBI and law enforcement are admitting, rarely, if ever, seen in the United States or Europe. They then raided his home in Houston. He lived in a trailer park in a heavily Muslim neighborhood. And when they raided it, they found a workshop that was essentially a bomb-making workshop. And they go, there were sophisticated bombs that he had inside his home. And yet they're telling us that he was a lone wolf, that there was no terror network, that he had no accomplices, no one collaborated with him, nobody helped him, that he did this all on his own. I don't believe it. I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. It just, from everything I'm being told, nothing adds up. How does a guy who is living in a trailer park in, the northern part in North Houston suddenly get his hands on some of these very dangerous that are so rare that they're found in the Middle East and parts of North Africa? How does that happen? Just what? He FedExed it? He UPS and had a delivery to his home? I don't believe it. Now, furthermore, just to show you how none of this really seems to add up, this is a man who apparently, they say, over the last year or two, became extremely radicalized. That he began to issue videos on Facebook talking about the need for a jihad. And yet the FBI says he was never on their radar. that they had no clue who this guy was. That they had no clue that the mosque that he was attending is apparently another one of those radical mosques that have been on, people have been talking about it, the Islamic Society of Greater Houston now for a while. And in fact, the mosque that he attended, just to show you the level of cooperation or, lack of cooperation, they issued a statement after the terrorist bombing took place that every congregant, every member of the mosque, when asked by the FBI to give a statement or to talk to the FBI or did they witness anything, they're explicitly told, don't say anything to the FBI. Everything must go through CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is a known terrorist front group. I mean, it's an open secret. Unindicted co-conspirators in multiple terrorist or investigations over the years. So you're letting this pro-jihadist, pro-Islamist organization speak on your behalf to answer questions from the FBI or if the media wants to inquire about anything? And you're telling me this guy acted alone? So why the cover-up? Why is the Islamic Society of Greater Houston, the Masjid Bazil Mosque, as it's called, why won't they just say, we have nothing to hide, come on in, talk to our people, talk to the congregants, talk to everybody. Instead, everything's got to go through CARE. And they're lying lawyers. None of this makes sense to me. None of it. None of it. Now, according to the FBI, he initially wanted to murder his family and friends. He wanted to pretend that he was going to have a celebration. He wanted to invite his ex-wife, some of his other family members, friends, and then murder all of them. But then he changed his mind. And the reason why he changed his mind was that he feared that by murdering his family and friends, Jabbar would lose the narrative and the message that he wanted to deliver, which was that he is part of ISIS, that seeks a global Islamic caliphate, and that this now is a war, as he put it, between the believers and the disbelievers, and that this message would be lost if he massacred his family. So instead, he wanted to pick New Year's Eve, early morning, New Year's Day, French Quarter, Bourbon Street, teeming with people to get his point across. And that's why he rented that white EV Ford pickup truck. That's why it was loaded with explosives. And the only reason why he wasn't able to detonate the explosives and kill God knows how many more people was that the police say he was shot and killed in the firefight that erupted after he started plowing down all those civilians, all those pedestrians. And so he didn't have a chance to detonate the IEDs that he had in his pickup truck, and apparently also 2 other improvised explosive devices, pipe bombs, that he put in coolers. He planted them in coolers and then placed them along Bourbon Street in strategic locations in the French Quarter. Now, I'm looking at this, and I'm saying to myself, and you want me to believe that this was a so-called lone wolf? That this guy acted on his own? That nobody at his mosque knew? That no one in his family knew? That none of his friends knew? That he did all of this on his own? Without any help from anybody? Under the nose of the FBI? I don't believe it. And then they're so quick to claim it wasn't terrorism, and of course, it screams terrorism. My question to you, what do you make of this terrorist attack in New Orleans, and is the FBI covering it up? 6:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Joe Biden. Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. He is looking at his watch, checking his watch, and saying that the Sugar Bowl, which was being played in New Orleans, which was temporarily canceled, postponed, because of the attack, well, he said, you know what? They're determined to get kickoff no matter what. Roll cut 5, Mike.
And we're seeing that today. The Sugar Bowl is back on. Kickoff is going to take off very shortly. If I don't get this damn thing done, we're going to be in real trouble.
And he's looking at his watch as he said this. Now, I don't understand. This was, I believe, on Thursday. So the attack took place Monday morning. This was Thursday. The game was postponed for one day. What's so funny? Like, he's an idiot. I'm sorry. Again, the guy's an absolute buffoon. So you've got 14 dead. If you count the shooter, the terrorist himself who was gunned down, Jabbar, that's 15. But I don't care for him. So 14 dead and 35 seriously injured. This is a major ISIS terrorist attack on American soil. And you're cracking jokes and you're going on about the game? Like, what's so funny? The lack of respect, the lack of decorum, any self-awareness whatsoever of the gravity and seriousness of the situation. Now you know why we are the laughing stock of the world, and this guy's a national laughing stock. Now you know why everybody laughs at Joe Biden. Because this guy, he thinks he's a comedian when he's talking. And by the way, and you know, they weren't giving us very much information then, and they're still not giving us very much information. But he thinks this guy, you know, he thinks he's Eddie Murphy. You know, the guy thinks he's Bob Hope. He thinks he's funny. He's not funny. Now, listen to Biden saying that he can't even finish his sentence. But all he wants to assure us is he's going to keep us updated. That's it. Roll cut 5B. Mike.
People in New Orleans are sending an unmistakable message. They will not let this attack or the attackers' deluded ideology overcome us. None of us should fear that it will overcome us. We're going to continue to relentlessly pursue ISIS and other terrorist organizations where they are, and they'll find no safe harbor here. I'll continue to provide updates in New Orleans and Las Vegas as the facts develop.
I mean, it's pathetic. No, really, it's pathetic. So, you know, they're not going to overcome us. Oh, wow. Okay, Joey. Okay, tough guy. Can't even read the teleprompter. That's how bad it's now gotten. Now, one more cut, and then I want to go to the jammed phone lines. Listen to him. This is Thursday. The attack took place on Wednesday. And already, nobody else was involved. It was less than 24 hours. And already, oh, no. Nobody else was involved. This was a lone wolf. It was one guy. There's no network. I don't want you to think ISIS is in the country. No. Hey, this guy, I don't know what the hell. He had a bad divorce. Guy had some bills, mounting debt, lives in a trailer, has a custody battle with his second wife, and suddenly he's got an ISIS flag and IEDs, and he's mowing people down and killing them. I don't know, he did it all on his own. Roll cut 6A, Mike.
The number of people killed in New Orleans has risen to 15, including the attacker. 35 people were injured. Today, the FBI briefed me that as of now, we have no information that anyone else is involved in the attack. They've established that the attacker was the same person who planted the explosives in those ice coolers in 2 nearby locations in the French Quarter just a few hours before he rammed into the crowd with his vehicle. They assessed he had a remote detonator in his vehicle to set off those 2 ice chests. So there's no question that, remember all the talk about other people were involved, they have him They have established he's there, and even established that he had a detonator to explode those ice chests.
So when he visited Cairo in 2023, the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood, that was just what, a tourist visit? That's what it was? Allah Akbar, okay. Everybody say cheese. Is that what you want us to believe? So the fact that he had connections to this radicalized mosque, no, nothing to see there? That he managed to get these rare chemical compounds, as I said, so rare they've hardly ever been seen in Europe and the United States? But he did that all on his own? This guy in his little trailer park? Like, how stupid do you think we are? No. The truth is, and everybody knows it, ISIS has a network in the United States. By the way, just as Hezbollah does, just as Al-Qaeda does, because we have, as Trump said rightly, we have a wide open southern border. And that means countless terrorists on the terror watch list. We know of at least 300 that have come into our country. Now, Jabbar was born and raised in Texas. Jabbar was an Army veteran. He was not someone who came from another country. Yes, but I want to know who helped him, who supplied him with these chemical compounds, who taught him how to make these sophisticated bombs. Where did he get the help, the support, the materiel, all of this? You don't just get up one day and say, my life sucks, can't stand my ex-wife, the bills are piling up. You know what? I'm going to join ISIS and mow down people on Bourbon Street. So it's obvious they want to cover up what happened because in their view, the only terrorist is a MAGA terrorist. The only terrorist is KKK, white supremacist terrorist. And that's why the FBI got their marching orders, and that's why they've been trying to clean this up now ever since the attack took place. When I heard on Thursday morning, as I was preparing for my dad's wake, that the FBI was getting involved, I swear to you, first thing in my mind, oh no. Well, now they're going to bury the truth. I'm like, oh no. The FBI's getting involved. They're going to sweep it under the rug. What are they going to try to sweep under the rug? And we're 4 or 5 days later? Here we are. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Vince in Deutschland, in Germany, you're going to be our first caller for 2025, Vince. How are you, and Happy New Year?
Happy New Year to you, Jeff. And I just want to extend my heartfelt condolences to your father and yourself and your family.
Thank you. Thank you, Vince. Thank you very much.
So I just want you to chew on this for a minute. All of the 9/11 hijackers came from well-to-do families, and they were all either educated men or they were on the path to be highly educated. So education and background have nothing to do with radicalization. It has nothing to do with that. Now, as far as the FBI being incompetent, I think it's all by design, and I think people are starting to really understand that it's all by design. It's intentional. It's intentional because then you have plausible deniability. You know, you sit there and you say, oh, gee, you know, what could we have done, or we missed it. It's always like we missed this guy. We didn't have him on the radar, or we paid him a visit a year ago and everything shook out and we just missed it. They're not watching these mosques. It's like when you're after bad guys, where do you go? You go to where bad guys hang out, and they're not doing that. What they are doing is they're harassing law-abiding American citizens who are going about their business, who just have philosophical differences on how the world is run and how this country should be run. And I don't know if you caught the press conference, but Senator Kennedy was down there, Louisiana, You see how he just stepped in front of that FBI agent, that special agent in charge, and cut her off because he had basically had enough of the nonsense. And I think that this country has woken up to the nonsense. They can't be trusted. And as soon as we clear out that viper's nest, the better we're all going to be. And honestly, what do we got? 14 days to the inauguration? I mean, all bets are off. I'm just waiting for the next terrorist attack. You know, this guy had sophisticated bomb material. That's what the reports are. It's not about building the bomb. It's about getting the material, because you can build very crude but effective devices. You know what I mean? It's just that you need the explosives to do it. And I've got, I'm not a layman. I'm not an expert, but I do have a background in demolition and explosives from my military years. So...
Well, you nailed it. I mean, Vince, where did he get that kind of sophisticated material? They're trying to tell us he ordered it by FedEx. Seriously. And you're right. Kash Patel can't start cleaning out the FBI fast enough. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. 2 words, Kash Patel. I can't wait for him to be confirmed as the new FBI director so we can start cleaning house ASAP. Now, one of the one of the FBI agents that was the point person. I mentioned her name earlier, Aretha Duncan, the one with the nose ring, who could barely speak proper English. Well, she did let the cat out of the bag. So apparently she didn't get the memo that this is supposed to be a lone wolf, that he didn't have any help, that this guy Jabbar, this terrorist, this Islamic terrorist, apparently this was all him, that he was solely responsible. No. Listen now to Althea Duncan, the FBI special agent in charge, the New Orleans office, at the beginning of the investigation right after the attack. Roll cut 7C, Mike.
The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We're aggressively running down all of the leads to identify the possible subject's associates. We're working to ensure that there is no further threat. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates. That's why we need the public's help. We are asking if anybody has any interactions with Samsud Dim Jabbar in the last 72 hours, that you contact us. The FBI is asking the public's help. We're asking anyone who has information, video, or pictures to provide it to the FBI.
So there you go. So it went from there's no way he could have pulled this off, Shamsud Din Jabbar, the Islamic terrorist, could not have pulled this off by himself. He had to have other associates. To suddenly, I guess the word came down from up high, no. Lone wolf, the only guy that did it is him, and let's sweep this under the rug, and let's move on. We don't want Americans thinking now that we have Islamic terrorists in the United States. No. White supremacy, Trump, MAGA, those are the only ones. Now, many of you are making this point on Messenger to me, and I think it's a brilliant point. Jeff, I post anything on Facebook, anything that is either pro-Trump or anti-Biden or whatever, and they put me in so-called Facebook jail for 3 months. This guy is putting ISIS video after ISIS video after ISIS video. And if the FBI wants us to believe they knew nothing about him, this guy was completely off their radar, as they like to say, I don't believe it. And I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that the FBI has been spending so much time focusing on J6 grandmothers or parents who are protesting in front of school boards or Catholics and spying on them in churches, that they have deliberately turned a blind eye to the rise of radical Islam and Islamic terrorist networks in the United States. I mean, it's so obvious. And instead of admitting, oops, this is how corrupt and politicized we have become under Biden and Garland and Christopher Wray, they want to pretend that this thing was a one-off by one sick, deranged individual. I mean, there's a lot of dead bodies, 14 dead. And if you look at the 14 dead, many of them 18 years old, 21 years old, 27 years old, 28 years old. A lot of them were young. I mean, there were a few people like me in their 50s and early 60s. But for the most part, the majority of the victims were young. And you have dozens more in the hospital. And they're trying to pass this off as if already, if you notice the media, they can't blame it on Trump. They can't blame it on MAGA. And the media's already lost interest. Next, let's go on to something else. 617-266-6868. Let me ask all of you. Do you believe Shamsuddin Jabbar, the terrorist who mowed down and murdered 14 people New Year's Eve, early morning New Year's Day on Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, was he acting alone? Do you believe he had no other help? Or do you believe the FBI is covering it up? And why do you think the FBI was so quick to jump and claim this was not a terrorist attack when it was so obviously a terrorist attack? Do you trust the FBI to lead this investigation? 617-266-6868. You know my position? No, I don't trust them. Hell no. But that's me. Dave in Pennsylvania, our Western PA correspondent. How are you, Dave? And I want to wish you and your family a very happy and healthy new year.
Thanks, buddy. And first, I want to say I'm sorry about your dad.
Thank you.
I know you said he had Parkinson's for a while there, but he's with the Lord, Jeff. So just remember the good times, buddy.
That's right. No, you're right.
Sure
You're completely right.
Times with your dad. Right. Jeff, as far as I'm concerned, the FBI, not all of them, I'm not going to blame the total rank and file because there's good and bad in everybody. I sound like Ebony and Ivory saying that, Jeff. No, but I call them the Federal Bureau of Idiots or Imbeciles because you know what, Jeff? If you remember the very first press conference, that young agent, the supposed agent in charge, that young woman who I thought was KGB or KJP over the radio, Corinne Jean-Pierre at first, I'm like, that can't be Corinne Jean-Pierre. That's an FBI agent. And they said it wasn't terrorism. And like at the 11 o'clock that morning, later that morning, New Year's Day, it was terrorism. So they can't investigate themselves. I mean, what's going on, buddy?
Well, I'm just curious, Dave. You have a man who, by his own admission says he's now a member of ISIS. He converted to radical Islam. He believes in the cause. He wants to wage a holy war. And nobody knows? Nobody at his mosque knows?
Yeah, I mean...
think about it. He goes to Cairo, Egypt, visits the Muslim Brotherhood headquarters, and they're telling us the Muslim Brotherhood had nothing to do with this? They find these bomb-making desks in his trailer with some of the most expensive and rare complex bomb-making compounds. They go, you'd never see this in Europe or America. I mean, we're talking Afghanistan, we're talking Syria, we're talking Lebanon, we're talking, the Middle East. This is where you find stuff like this. Gaza, the West Bank. No, he's got it all. But apparently, he did this all on his own? I mean, how stupid do they think we are, Dave?
Jeff, I can also tell you, and I'm not making it about me, about being a veteran. Overseas, I remember in Iraq twice when I was in Desert Storm in Iraq. Even the second time, we not only had to be aware of Saddam's chemical weapons, we also knew he had an arsenal of special weapons from the Republican Guard, Jeff. You know what I'm saying? His Republican Guard. But, Jeff, besides the point, if you remember, too, after 9/11, CARE was behind some of the 9/11 hijackers, and some of the 9/11 hijackers were also worshiping in the Texas area, if I'm not wrong, if I remember correctly, Jeff. Mohammed Atta and some of his buddies. So guess what? This guy was radicalized among the most radical of the radical, buddy.
Well, Dave, when I was at the Washington Times, again, this was a while back, but when I was there as their assistant national editor, we did a special series on CARE. It was a multi-part series. We put our best investigative reporters. And I'll never forget how they summed it up. Every terrorist in America, CARE defends. Every single time. Every time there is an Islamic terrorist attack, CARE will defend that terrorist. They exist to defend and protect Islamic terrorists. If that mosque, and they are, that mosque that he attended, is telling every person who attends that mosque, any questions you have from the FBI, refer it to CARE. Any media inquiries, refer it to CARE. Anybody asks you anything about this guy Jabbar, you just refer everything to CARE. Now, if they're going to have CARE handle the public, by the way, that means they're not cooperating. That's what that means. It's a cover-up. They're stonewalling. But if you're going to have CARE be essentially your spokesperson for this, then you know they're covering up not just an act of terror. They're covering up a network. Final word to you, Dave.
Yeah, Jeff, exactly. And like I said, Jeff, I'll depart with this. I'm sorry about your father again. You'll keep you and your wonderful wife and family in my prayers, and your family to your sister. I believe in Arizona, correct? But
yes,
I'll keep you on my prayers, Jeff, and you're always in my thoughts and prayers, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dave. And again, Happy New Year. My sister flew up for the wake and the funeral, and she has to go back today. But yeah, it's been a very, very tough week. But soon, God willing, it'll come to an end. We are going to put my dad's urn along with my mom's. We're going to finally put them together, and they're going to be, finally buried together. And I think, get some closure for both me, my sister, and our whole family. Look, I know I said it in my opening monologue, but Parkinson's, I don't wish it on anybody. My dad battled severe Parkinson's for 10 years. It robbed him of his ability to speak. It robbed him of his ability to walk. It robbed his ability to even hold, let's say, a cup or a fork. It was a cruel, torturous, excruciating disease. And as my sister put it, he was a prisoner in his own body. And so in some ways, there's relief that the pain and the suffering is finally over. I just feel very bad that my dad had to endure all that. And I think that's part of the emotion that overcame me at his wake and then on Friday at his funeral. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for all their wonderful thoughts and prayers and condolences. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868. But look, I love my dad. Please, I don't want anybody to think I'm being disrespectful. But, my dad was 81 years old, passed away. I'm looking at these poor victims in New Orleans, 18 years old, 20 years old. I could read you the names. Their ages, 21, 24, 27, 28. They were cut down in the prime of their youth. They still had the whole world in front of them. And I think we deserve a law enforcement agency, which is supposed to be our premier domestic federal law enforcement agency, to level with us. As Senator Kennedy, John Kennedy from Louisiana said, where, he goes, all I get from the FBI are lies. That's him. That's his words, not mine. So they can't level to us about anything. Did he have accomplices? They can't level. Where did he get much of his bomb-making material? They can't level with us. When exactly was he radicalized? They can't level with us. Why then were they, what about the connections to the local mosque? They can't level with us. So every time you ask for the most basic questions, you get spin, obfuscation, and lies. Well, what are you lying for? We deserve answers. The people of New Orleans do, the people of America do, and the victims, the families of the victims. And my fear is, unless we get Kash Patel in there, we're never going to find out, like so many other incidents, we're never going to find out what really happened. To me, what is clear is that this was an attack by ISIS on the American homeland. This was another act of radical Islamic terrorism on American soil. And yet the media is trying to treat this like it's nothing. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mike, is there another, who do you want me to go to next? Andy in Halifax. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you doing? Thank you so much for taking my call. And
my pleasure, Andy. Happy New Year, Andy.
Thank you. I was wondering if you got an opportunity maybe or heard about the Sean Ryan interview with the military blogger that got an email from Livensberger, which is the driver of the Cybertruck in front of Trump Plaza.
Yeah, the one I was going to get to that because the FBI is trying to claim, I can even play the cut, but I don't want to bother Andy, where Biden comes out almost right away saying that there was no connection between the Cybertruck bombing outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas and the rampage that took place in New Orleans. Even though, as you know, Andy, they both use the Turo app to rent their vehicles. Now, I've never heard of the Turo app. Many people have told me, Jeff, I never heard of this app before. So look it up. People don't believe me. Turo, the Turo app. So that's a strange coincidence. Okay, could be a coincidence. They both served in the military. Okay, that's interesting. They both served at Fort Bragg. Now, the military says at different times. But still, they both served at Fort Bragg. So there's some connections there, some obvious connections there. But before they even had a chance to investigate the connections, Biden and the FBI came out and said, no, the two attacks are not connected. I'm like, well, how could you say that? I mean, it's less than 24 hours. So, again, there's something very fishy there, but I digress. Please, go ahead, Andy.
Oh, so I would agree that there is definitely something fishy, and, there are no coincidences. Who said that? Someone famous said that. There are no coincidences. In any case, I think the coincidence, the thread here, is that it's meant to disrupt the incoming administration. They will do, like we know, they will do anything to stop him. But I digress. I wanted to just focus for a second on the actual interview on the Sean Ryan show. And I don't know Sean Ryan. I don't follow him. I guess he's like one level below, like a Joe Rogan type podcast. A lot of people watch. And someone sent this to me, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I started watching it, and I was absolutely riveted. And even my this person that sent it to me didn't watch it to the end. The end of it, this gentleman that got the email from Livensberger, who says, if I don't make it, literally one of those things you see on a Jack Ryan movie. If I don't make it, this is my testament, and this is X, Y, and Z. You really need to go listen to that hour and 20 minutes. It will absolutely open your eyes. But the last thing I just want to say is that there's a point right at the end where he says that he had two corroborating people, one from in the United States, one from south of the border in Mexico, that said that verified that several Iranian-made man-pad surface-to-air missiles have been smuggled over the border and are now in the United States. And I mean, that's really...
Nothing would shock me now, Andy. I mean, look, we don't know, obviously, but look, nothing would shock me. We know for a fact because the FBI has admitted this. Homeland Security and the FBI under Chris Wray have admitted this, that Iranian terrorist proxy cells have penetrated our southern border. So we know Iranian terrorists are in America. We know that. We know that Hezbollah is in America. We know that. And we know that they're smuggling dangerous materials, bombs, and God knows, maybe even surface-to-air missiles into the United States. So, to me, I lay all of this at the feet of Joe Biden. All of this. And I don't care whether Jabbar came from another country or was born and raised in America. That's irrelevant. He was able to operate in the shadows. He was able to get bomb-making material. He was able to make death threats. He was able to make Facebook videos glorifying and celebrating ISIS. The job of the FBI is to track people like this down. And instead, they did nothing. Either because they were too busy spying on you, Andy, and spying on me, and spying on Catholics and parents who protest school boards and going after J6 grandmothers or whatever, or because they were too focused on white supremacists, or they knew and they didn't care. I don't care if it's door 1 or door 2, but they got to go. And I got to say this, okay? This Alethea Duncan, how do you come out? Really, barely able to put together a coherent sentence with that unprofessional nose ring, and you're supposed to be the lead FBI agent for New Orleans. Okay, New Orleans is a big city. And tell everybody this was not a terrorist attack. When, for God's sake, the guy was flying the ISIS flag in the pickup truck as he was murdering him, as he was running him down. And he's got 2 IEDs inside the pickup truck. And then we find out he's got other IEDs that he put in coolers across the French Quarter. He would have planned to detonate those. God knows how many would have been killed. And she's saying this wasn't a terrorist attack, and she still has her job? And Andy, final point, I want to give you the last word. The Trump assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania. Who lost their job over that? Again, in the Secret Service, does anybody lose their job? At the FBI, does anybody lose their job? It's the swamp. It never gets drained. What say you, Andy?
I would agree 100%. You know, but for 14 days, we've got to run this gauntlet that they're literally will do anything. Last thing I want to say, just one split second. This email that
Andy, call back again, my friend. Look, I'm going to stay on top of this, but I agree with you. We've got 14 days to go. May God help us. 7:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, terror strikes the United States on New Year's Day. New Orleans, the target, a radicalized Muslim follower of ISIS, struck using a Ford pickup truck, a vehicle attack, plowing down 14 people dead, over 30 injured, some of them in very critical condition. I'm going to talk about Las Vegas, a little more detail in the next segment, but almost simultaneously, within several hours of each other, a cyber truck blew up. There was an explosion, a detonation, in front of the Trump Tower, the Trump Hotel, in Las Vegas by a Green Beret. So both of the perpetrators were members of the military. Jabbar, the New Orleans terrorist, was a former member of the military. He had left maybe about 5 years ago. The Matthew Leivelsberger was in fact a current member. Green Beret, Special Forces, and he blew up the Cybertruck. Luckily, no one else was killed except for himself. In fact, police are now saying that he shot himself in the head and I guess had the explosive devices on some kind of a detonation timer. And as he shot himself in the head, boom, the car blew up. So the police are now insisting, law enforcement, the FBI, the Biden regime, that there is no connection between the two whatsoever. Call me skeptical. Let me just say this. Call me skeptical. 617-266-6868. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. First off, my deep, heartfelt condolences to you and your family. May your dad rest in eternal peace, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark.
So I have two things, Jeff, okay? First off, the audacity on the FBI. I don't believe the FBI for anything, nor do I believe Joe Biden. And I'll get to that in a second. But the audacity the FBI has to say that right after it happened, we don't believe that this is terrorism. You forgot to mention, Jeff, this guy shot at 2 police officers. Remember that?
Yes.
He shot at 2 police officers. So you're going to tell me this is not terrorism? What do you need, the guy to call you up on the phone and say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm going to do this? The FBI is nothing but just another cover-up organization for this government. And as far as Joe Biden goes, let me ask you a question, Jeff. Actually, 2 questions. If I financed Black Lives Matter or Antifa or any terrorist group, or if I left 13 people in Benghazi to die or erased 33,000 emails from my server, would I get the Medal of Freedom? I'm asking for a friend.
You're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. I mean, that Biden would give both Hillary Clinton and George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom is to me beyond despicable. It's an insult. It's a slap in the face. It really is. And look, he's giving us the middle finger now on the way out. And just to go back to your other point very quickly, Mark, because I think you hit the nail on the head. He doesn't just plow down all these pedestrians, killing, 15 people. No, he then engages in a firefight. That's what he does. He engages in a shootout with police, and they gun him down. And on the way from Houston to New Orleans, he's stopping periodically, and he's taking videos of himself that he's posting on Facebook, where he says, I am a member of ISIS. This is a holy war. I am here to kill as many Americans as possible. Allah Akbar. Glory to the Prophet Muhammad. I mean, he made it as, I don't know how much clearer the guy could have said, this is a terrorist attack. And even now, Mark, please don't take my word for it. Read the New York Times. Read the Wall Street Journal. Read the Washington Post. Read the Associated Press. Read whatever. Okay? CNN. They keep saying law enforcement sources stumped by a motive. They still don't have a motive for why Jabbar did what he did on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve. I'm like, the motive is screaming at you. His videos are telling you the motive. The black ISIS flag on the pickup truck is telling you the motive. How much more obvious do you want to make it? The guy was an Islamic terrorist who killed Americans in the name of a holy war against America and against the West. Final word to you, Mark.
Well, Jeff, also, how the hell do we know that he only got radicalized a couple of years ago? What if he joined the military as an ISIS sympathizer and infiltrated our military? This is why I do not trust the FBI. I do not trust our government. And right now, our military is effed up. And Jeff, hopefully today, certification will go off without a hitch. And then in 14 days from now, like Trump's slogan was this year, I'll fix it.
Mark, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Happy New Year. All the best to you and your family, Mark. Okay, let me ask you, what do you think is really happening in the FBI? What do you think happened in New Orleans? And what do you think happened in Las Vegas? Your calls next. 7:30 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, we tend to get a lot of new listeners coming in at 7:30, so I want to wish all of you again a very happy, healthy, blessed, prosperous new year. We're still facing a massive cover-up, stonewalling by the FBI. And the question now that many Americans have, which has not been answered to our satisfaction, certainly not to my satisfaction, was there a connection? Is there a connection between what happened in New Orleans in the early morning hours of New Year's Day, in which Shamsud-Din Jabbar, 42 years old, Army veteran, drove a white pickup truck deliberately onto the sidewalk, very busy sidewalk, Bourbon Street. People were out celebrating New Year's and just mowed him down, ran him over, brutally killing 14 people. His truck had 2 improvised explosive devices. They found others that he put in coolers all across the French Quarter. Luckily, he was shot and killed in a shootout with police. Otherwise, he had a detonator, and he would have detonated these bombs, and the death toll would have been considerably higher. Because within hours of what took place in New Orleans, Matthew, or he went by Matt Leivelsberger, 37 years old, an active member of the military, in fact, a Green Beret Special Forces unit, highly trained, highly skilled, highly capable, from Colorado Springs, Colorado, rented, just the way Jabbar rented his pickup truck from this app known as Turo, Turo. Matt Leivelsberger, from the same app, Turo, rented a Cybertruck and drove it down to Las Vegas. Both of them, by the way, served at Fort Bragg. Now, the military says not at the same time, different times, but still, they both served on the same base. He drove down to Las Vegas, parked the Cybertruck, apparently loaded with fireworks and gas and oil canteens for camping. Camping gas, oil, gas canteens, loaded it up to set off a massive explosion. By the grace of God, the Cybertruck with the stainless steel doors is built to absorb massive impact. So he didn't kill anybody because the Cybertruck that he had basically absorbed so much of the explosion and the explosive devices that were set off and detonated. According to law enforcement, they say that Leivelsberger shot himself in the head before the actual car detonated. So that's what they're telling us. It was basically a suicide / terrorist attack. Now, this is the part that I find suspicious. I could be wrong. I'm just speaking now from the heart. Law enforcement say that Leivelsberger released a manifesto, that this manifesto was put online. It was in his car, in the iPad, the iPhone, some of these a smartphone, the devices that he had. So this was an electronic manifesto that he wanted to be found. According to what the police are saying, Leivelsberger was a Trump supporter. In fact, he went on about how bad shape the country was in under Joe Biden. And he talked about all of his deployments. Apparently, he deployed to Afghanistan multiple times. He deployed to Iraq. He deployed to other countries in the Middle East and in Africa. And that he felt that the country was overextended, that we needed Trump back in office to end these endless wars, that he thought that the open southern border was killing the United States. He was a huge backer of Trump, J.D. Vance, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he went on about how COVID was a disaster. The lockdowns were a disaster. The jabs were a disaster. Now, I'm asking myself, first of all, how is it now that every time somebody does something, there's a ready-made manifesto for the FBI and a ready-made manifesto for law enforcement? Have you noticed that? Now, you shoot up a school, there's a manifesto. You blow up a cyber truck, there's a manifesto. No matter what, you commit a terrorist act, it's all, everybody puts together a manifesto that's easily accessible and easily found. I'm like, everybody now has a manifesto? That's number one. I'm like, I don't believe this. I'm skeptical. That's number one. Number two, why would you want to blow up the Trump hotel? If you're a supporter of Trump, why would you want to blow up his hotel? Furthermore, if you're a supporter of Trump and of Elon Musk and of J.D. Vance and of RFK Jr., and they're going to be inaugurated, the attack took place January 1st. I know today it's 2 weeks, but then it was 20 days. So you're 20 days away from seeing your country completely be turned around. And you're going to blow yourself up? And potentially kill other Trump supporters, because many Trump supporters stay at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. And now, apparently the law enforcement say, the FBI say that in his manifesto, he explicitly says, Leibelsberger, that this is not a terrorist act, but that this is a wake-up call. So he's killing himself and blowing up his Cybertruck and potentially killing other fellow Americans and even Trump supporters, even though Trump is 3 weeks away at the time from being inaugurated. He has to blow up the Cybertruck as a wake-up call so the country understands we need Trump. We need to stop the invasion at the southern border, end all of these wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, and to start going after the swamp and draining the swamp. I mean, Trump campaigned on these issues. You don't need to blow yourself up or blow the vehicle up or kill people. You voted for Trump. Trump wins. He's 2.5 weeks away from fulfilling these promises that you want fulfilled, but you feel the need to blow up the freaking truck in order to encourage Trump or pressure Trump to fulfill his promises? It doesn't make sense. Now, he did add one other point, and I'd like vets to weigh in on this because maybe there is something to this. I don't know. He says that another reason why he's essentially going to kill himself and blow himself up or blow up this truck and take his own life is to, quote, cleanse his mind of the brothers that he's lost in these wars and to relieve himself of the burden of all of the people that he's killed, the enemies that he's killed in all of these deployments. So it seems that he suffered from very serious PTSD. And so just couldn't live with it anymore. The guilt, the agony, the stress, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, or whatever it is, these demons that he was wrestling with. And so he looked at this as a way out. But I mean, again, you're going to go to the Trump Hotel, load it up with fireworks, and these were very primitive bombs. Even the FBI, this is what's so bizarre about this whole case. You got to see the official statement. He's not just a Green Beret. He wasn't just special forces. Apparently, he was trained in unconventional warfare. He was trained to use some of the most sophisticated deadly bombs and deadly explosives in the world. And so the FBI comes out with a statement saying, a guy with his training and his long experience in the military, going back, 18, almost 20 years, with the kind of equipment that he was able to put together, these are their words, not mine. The FBI issued a statement saying this was a very low-grade attack for what he was capable of doing. I mean, if this guy really wanted to blow that truck up and blow the Trump Hotel, he had the capability to easily blow that thing up to smithereens. This could have been dozens, hundreds dead if he really wanted to. Nothing about this makes sense. Nothing. Now, this is the skeptic in me. You had an Islamic terrorist attack. That's not good for Joe Biden. That's not good for the FBI. That's not good for the narrative that they want to push, that MAGA is the threat, white supremacy, KKK. So, let's balance that attack with this Matt Leibelsberger. And so, turn him into some kind of a fall guy or some kind of a patsy. I mean, look, I don't like to engage in conspiracy theories. I really don't. But I'm looking at this and I'm scratching my head. So he's a Trump supporter who voted for Trump, writes this manifesto that Trump needs to fix the problems of the country. So to make a statement, he's going to kill himself, blow up the Cybertruck, and he's going to do it right in front of the Trump Hotel, potentially killing other Trump supporters. No. I'm sorry. No, it doesn't make sense. And the two men rented their vehicles from the same app. The two men were military. The two men were at Fort Bragg. Something is up. I'm telling you, 2 + 2 is not giving us 4. Something is up here. Agree, disagree. All of your calls next. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Are the New Orleans and Las Vegas terrorist attacks connected? I'm just curious. The FBI says they're not connected. Joe Biden says they're not connected. Law enforcement is adamant. No links, no connections, no overlap, none whatsoever. Do you believe them? Do you believe that there was a connection between Jabbar, who perpetrated the New Orleans terrorist attack, and Matthew Leibelsberger, the man who blew up that Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, taking his own life in the process? A, yes. B, no. Do you believe there's a connection? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. If you prefer, you can also vote via X, my handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, Kuhn as in national ER. Lines are loaded. Let's go to Bruce in Woburn. Bruce, thanks for holding and welcome. Bruce, what do you make of all this, my friend?
Well, for one thing, welcome back, Carter.
Thank you, Bruce.
There's no connection, no connection at all. The one guy down in New Orleans, he was a terrorist. The other guy had PTSD.
Well,
PTSD.
Bruce, I hear you. And Larry, as you know, an Air Force veteran, was in fact messaging me saying that, PTSD does lead to a lot of suicides among veterans. And so that part I clearly believe. What I'm asking is a different question, Bruce. Would a person suffering from PTSD rent a Cybertruck, drive it all the way down to Las Vegas from Colorado Springs, park it in front of the Trump Hotel, and he's a Trump supporter, and apparently he used a cannon for a gun, apparently a 50 caliber Desert Eagle, I believe, according to Larry. He says that just doesn't kill you, that blows your head off. I mean, that literally takes your head off. That thing it's a cannon. Does that make sense to you, Bruce, that a guy would do that? I mean, I get, committing suicide, jumping off a bridge, shooting yourself, whatever, taking pills, whatever, how people commit suicide. But to rent a Cybertruck and then to be, to drive across New Mexico and drive across Arizona and go to Las Vegas and then park it right near the Trump Hotel, and then, put these fireworks in there, these canteens of camping oil, have a detonator, but then blow his head off, and then the thing detonates, and all these fireworks blow up. Isn't that a bizarre way, even if you believe the whole PTSD suicide narrative? Have you heard of anybody, in the military killed themselves like this?
Well, Jeff, he just had enough with what was going on, and the FBI, they had this guy in New Orleans was, they're calling the January 6th, and Trump, the FBI raided his home, was going to kill him. And he had enough, I guess, Jeff. He just couldn't take it anymore. But my whole point is, this guy in New Orleans, they had a line on him. And he's a Muslim Brotherhood guy. He was a bad guy. Tried to kill a bunch of people. And he did. And it's just unbelievable how they let him do what he did. And they knew he was going to do it.
Well, I think that's the point. I think, Bruce, you really put your finger on. I think that's why the FBI is so quick to move on. The media is so quick to move on. Because, you see, they're all worried now. Trump is going to be inaugurated in 14 days, God willing. And Kash Patel, again, God willing, is going to be confirmed as his FBI director. This case, you want to talk about making the case for Kash Patel. This case, it screams Kash Patel, clean house, clean up that viper's nest at the FBI. Because I don't believe for a second that you had a guy tied to one of the most radicalized mosques in the country, who is doing ISIS video after ISIS video after ISIS video, who is getting these bomb-making compounds that have not been seen in America or Europe. Some of the most dangerous, sophisticated bomb-making compounds. And the FBI had no clue whatsoever? So you're not tracking people on social media who are vowing to blow Americans up in the name of ISIS after everything what ISIS has done for the last, 10, 12 years? They're the most notorious terrorist organization in the world. And you're telling, I don't mean you as in you, Bruce. I mean you as in the FBI. And you're telling me that the FBI, so no one tracked him on social media? No one's tracking him as he's purchasing these compounds and these chemicals from God knows where, traveling to Egypt, traveling to Cairo, visiting the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood? And on top of all this, you're telling me that he did all this alone? Bullcrap. You know what I really want to say? I can't say it. Okay? BS. Bull. You know what? To me, it's obvious. And I'll bet you the best steak. You picked the steakhouse, Bruce. They were following him. They had him on their radar. And like the Tsarnaevs, and I could go on and on and on, he fell right through the cracks. And they don't want that to come out, because if it comes out, it's just paving the way for Kash Patel when he says, we don't have to destroy the FBI building. We're not going to demolish this and turn this agency on its head and clean house from top to bottom. That's why they want to make it seem lone wolf, under the radar. Nobody knew this. Nobody saw it, even though a child could see what was going to happen. Agree, disagree, Bruce?
Just like the Sinai brothers, just like all the other mistakes, and like Obama said, the JV team, they are the most ruthless. They're the ones just involved with everything, even in Israel, and they're trying to candy coat the whole thing, Jeff. What we got Muslim Brotherhood in this country, and they are within our military, within our whole everything that we think about, and we want to believe that the FBI is going to help us. They're not going to help us, Jeff.
Well, they're covering up. No, there's no question. No, I don't trust the FBI as far as I can throw them. Bruce, thank you very, very much for that call. No, look, come on. Who are we kidding? The Muslim Brotherhood has now reached the upper echelons of the U.S. military. CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, under the Biden administration. It began under Obama. It accelerated and increased under Biden. Is now giving guidance on our military. So they're so deeply embedded that they are giving us advice on how to train our soldiers regarding Muslim countries, the Muslim world, Islamic terrorists. Are you kidding me? CARE? And they're the ones now fielding questions from the FBI. So they're involved in the cover-up. So to me, there's no question in my mind. There's no question that the Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, Hezbollah they're not just penetrating our State Department. They're not just penetrating the FBI. They're penetrating our military. And what we saw in New Orleans was a colossal failure of security. And now it's just sweep this thing under the rug, portray this guy as some crazy individual. I don't know. How did he get all these bombs? I don't know. How did he get to Cairo, Egypt? That's another thing. The guy's up to his eyeballs in debt, but he's flying all over the Middle East. Who's paying for that? I don't know. He's making all these ISIS videos saying, we're going to kill people. This is a jihad. All the disbelievers in America, we're going to kill you. We're here. Nobody in the FBI spotted this. So what are we paying all your people's salaries for God's sakes? I don't know. And then you tell us it wasn't a terrorist attack when it was obviously a terrorist attack? As I said, the black flag was flying from the back of the pickup truck as he's mowing people down. How much more? What else? I mean, what do you need? Neon signs? And to this day, look it up. We don't know. We don't know the motive. I don't know. You don't know the motive? ISIS just struck the homeland. There's your motive. Hello? 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. I'm sorry to hear about your father. My buddies that listen to your program and all my friends, we're all going to be praying for him, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you very much.
Okay, I want to start off with Lisenberg. Jeff, you missed out the most important thing. I can see why being a soldier like he was and all the time he spent in the military, he had to come out with it. And I think this government, this corrupt government with 14 days to go, would come after what he said. You left out the part where he talked about the drones, Jeff, where federal officials were working with China to develop and deploy the mysterious drones that caused havoc across New York and the region last month. But he made some other statements that people don't know about. Do you know in 2013, because he was still in the military, do you know Obama was working with the Chinese in Arizona for 3 years doing tests with drones, testing them? Are you aware of that? So what he's saying is a fact, that our government's working with these Chinese. Can you believe it, Jeff, with this administration? There should be, when Patel gets in and when we get somebody in the CIA and when Trump gets in, find out what this government was doing with China with drones.
I think the drones, Jimmy, to be frank, are just the tip of the iceberg. I think we've been providing China with our nuclear technology, our missile technology, not just our drone technology. And I know it's slightly off topic, Jimmy, but trust me, it comes back to your original point. To me, I will look, today is, Insurrection Day, right? It's January 6th. I will never forget till the day I die what Milley, then chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, the parade general, as I call him, admitted to in his own book. This is not even a claim or an allegation. This is what he admitted and frankly bragged about in his own book. You can look it up. Don't take my word for it. Where he said, no, on January 6th, I called my counterpart, the Chinese version of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, so the top military person in China, and I said, I want you to know that I have now put the military under my command, not Donald Trump. I have usurped the chain of command. No one answers to Trump. They answer to me. And I'm telling you that if there is ever to be an attack on China, I will make sure, A, it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, I will give you advance warning 30 minutes. Now, that's treason. And it's not just treason. That's the kind of cozy relationship. To pick up the phone like this, I mean, that's like your best friend. That's like me calling my sister or, whatever. It's like, hey, I want you to know things go really bad. Things are going crazy at the Capitol and the world's freaking out. But I want you to know I got your back. In fact, I so got your back that if something happens between your country and my country, that I'm going to, I will let you know 30 minutes ahead of time. I will betray my country and let the enemy know what the intention of my country is regarding you, the communist Chinese. And that's treason. I mean, this guy, honestly, that's, you got to go to the dock. There needs to be a military tribunal. There needs to be a court. He has to answer. He has to answer for this. And instead, he's writing a best-selling book. They're lying. He's lionizing himself, and they're lionizing him on the left. The guy's a hero. He's willing to sell America out to the communist Chinese. So if our top general at the time is able to call China's top general and say, I bow to you. Notice the Chinese general didn't say to Milley, and by the way, if Xi Jinping or my people launch a war against the United States, I will give you 30 minutes advance warning. Notice the Chinese didn't tell us that. That showed to me how corrupt, how complicit, and how rampant Chinese influence is at the highest levels of our military, at the highest levels of our national security apparatus, at the highest levels of our government. So I think the drone technology, you're right, that Leibelsberger was talking about, and how the Chinese are just pilfering all of our technology, just stealing it left, right, and center, and we're just handing it over to them. I think that treason is just the tip of the iceberg. Jimmy, am I wrong?
Hey, Jeff, one more point I want to make, Jeff. My brother showed me the day when that stuff happened in New Orleans. Is this true? That's why Senator Kennedy is all upset. He knows something, that this really happened, that they were tracking him for 3 weeks. Is that true, Jeff?
I mean, that's the rumor. I can't say it's true. I haven't seen anything corroborated. I do know, I can tell you this. Kennedy was furious, is furious with the FBI, has in fact publicly said he doesn't trust them. And he also said that they've lied to him and that they've lied to other people in Louisiana. And, you know, and he says it's all going to come out. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to come out, but Kennedy's basically saying, I'm going to spill the beans. So Kennedy is saying we're being lied to, that he knows for a fact the FBI has been lying, which begs the question, why? Like, just stand back objectively, okay? Everybody, just stand back for a second, okay? Let's just take the story at face value. You have a radicalized Muslim, an American, okay, born and raised in America, an Army veteran, spent years in the Army, apparently more tech. He didn't see battlefield action, which is fine, but he was a tech guy. Even deployed 11 months in Afghanistan. Again, doing behind-the-scenes IT and tech work, not a guy on the battlefield. Fine. No, it's nothing fine. Everything's okay. But then apparently gets radicalized. And he gets so radicalized, he becomes, a militant Islamist. So he now wants to start killing Americans. And he's bragging about it on Facebook, on social media. He's telegraphing it. As he's driving from Houston to New Orleans, he's stopping periodically and making ISIS videos, saying, I'm coming to New Orleans. There's going to be a lot of dead people today or tonight. He then goes and executes his attack. Why would the FBI say it wasn't a terrorist attack? Like, why? Why would you lie about that? Why would you then come out and say he clearly had help? No way could he have pulled off this kind of an attack without help, and then walk it back. Why? Why would you want to downplay if there was a terrorist network connected to the mosque that he attended, connected to the Islamic, the Greater Islamic Society of Greater Houston? Why would you cover that up? You're the FBI. When you investigate, say, the mob, you don't cover it up. You lay out all the facts, all the information, all the people involved, everybody you want to charge, whether they're, accomplices or unindicted co-conspirators, or you lay it all out. But they are determined to cover this up every step of the way. Why? Why? And I think the question answers itself. Because the Bureau has now become hopelessly politicized. See no Islamists, hear no Islamists, speak no Islamists. And that's why we need Kash Patel. This is how corrupt the FBI has become. Their job is to tell us the truth. Their job is to protect Americans. And what I really fear, this I'm just thinking out loud. This is just a theory. But my fear is that they had him on their radar, what you just mentioned, Jimmy. I think they knew he was up to something. How could they not know? with what this guy was saying on social media and with his background and his associations and his connections. And I think, for whatever reason, either through incompetence, negligence, whatever, they just turned a blind eye, and now we've got 14 dead Americans and dozens seriously wounded. And they don't want us to know, because then heads will roll. 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. 617-266-6868 is the number. Janet in North Carolina. Thanks for holding, Janet, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I'm so sorry, your dad. I'm so sorry. To have brought you into this world, he had to be a great man.
Oh, thank you, Janet. Thank you very much.
It's heartfelt. Jeff, you have given me just light in the last 15 years, and I appreciate it. Jeff, I just wanted to say that, by 2012, they were already referring to the FBI. Now, this is Obama's second administration, brand new, out of the gate. They're already referring to the FBI as Obama's FBI. And so we imagine that 4 years, he had 4 years to do that. So that's all I had to say, but I love you, Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Janet. No, I remember that. And again, thank you very much, and a happy new year to you and your family, Janet. No, I remember that. And you're right. And by Obama's second term, they were already referring it as Obama's FBI, because the purge had been that deep and that extensive. He cleaned out all the professionals, all the nonpartisans, and stacked them with his hacks. And that's just intensified over the years. And that's what Biden has done, except on steroids. And, and look, there's no, I just want you to just, for a second, the FBI has a DEI office, I swear to you, okay? A diversity, equity, inclusion office. They held a protest over the holidays, if you can believe it. And why were they protesting? Because a white guy, a white male, Christopher Wray, was resigning to make way eventually for a brown guy, a brown minority. I'm not trying to, not to put it crudely, but, Kash Patel. Have you seen a picture of the guy? He's brown. Nothing wrong with being brown, obviously. We're all created, equal in the eyes of God. But what I'm saying is, here's a brown-skinned minority person, Kash Patel, who's going to be the next FBI director. And they are protesting. You see all of these woke leftists at the FBI taking a knee with pictures being taken of them kneeling in protest in defense of an old white guy because he's going to be replaced by a brown minority. Like, this is how insane the FBI, and that's their DEI office. Like, I'm sorry, isn't the whole point to promote minorities? Is it the whole point to put, black people and brown people and Asians and, whatever, so-called minority groups? Isn't that the whole point? Don't you guys want to get rid of old white guys? And instead, and by the way, all of these idiots outside the FBI building wearing these masks, all of them wearing their masks, for fear of COVID or whatever. So they got these ridiculous masks on their face. You see about 30 or 40 of them, and they're all kneeling in protest at Kash Patel. I mean, this is, and you're the FBI? You're the Federal Bureau of Investigation? Don't you have terrorists to catch? I'm thinking out loud. Maybe a guy called Jabbar in Houston who keeps doing ISIS videos on Facebook and saying, we're going to kill Americans, and pretty soon you're going to be hearing from us. It's a war between believers and disbelievers. And he's tied to one of the most radicalized mosques in the country. And the guy seems, I don't know, he's got a thing. He keeps going back to Egypt, Muslim Brotherhood, back and forth, back and forth. I don't know. Maybe you guys should take a look. Instead, no. We don't want a brown minority to replace an old white guy to be the director of the FBI. We at the DEI office of the FBI. That's the problem with the FBI in a nutshell. It's a joke. It's a joke. And I'm not going to stand here and give you the whole Sean Hannity. I mean, how this guy looks at himself in the mirror is beyond me. The whole Sean Hannity, it's just a few leaders at the top, but 99.9% of the rank and file, they're the best of the best. No. It's a viper's nest. Okay? That's the problem. It's full of political hacks. And you know what happens when you have political incompetent hacks running an agency? They run it into the ground. And the result, 14 dead, 35 injured, guy waving an ISIS flag with IEDs in his pickup truck, and they're saying, motive? We don't know. That's what they have done to what used to be the premier law enforcement agency in the world. Now, the overwhelming majority of Americans want that whole place cleaned out. Starting with me, Jeff Kuhner. More next. Where's the peace? That's what I'd love to know. 8:30 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. How many times have we heard from liberals, the media, our own military, at least the military elites, from you name it, the FBI leadership, I could go on and on. Islam is a religion of peace. Peace, peace. It's nothing but peace. Constant peace. Nonstop peace. And here you go again. He converts to Islam, and before you know it, he's now fighting under the ISIS black flag and loading up a pickup truck with explosives and mowing people down. And it's not just a one-off. They're doing this in Germany. They're doing it in England. They did it in Nice, France. This is now a common way that Islamic terrorists now are able to attack and commit atrocities that are unspeakable. And yet nobody asks Islamic leaders. I'm not talking about condemning an obvious act of terrorism. How is it that this guy got a passage from the Quran? I'm just going by law enforcement, what they said, that when they raided Jabbar's home, they found bomb-making workbenches using compounds and chemicals rarely found, their words, in Europe or America. And right next to it, they found a library full of Islamic books, but at the top was the Quran, open to the specific passage. Section 9, chapter, 111, verse 111, where it openly says, you must kill the enemies of Allah. That it is the duty of Muslims to murder and kill the enemies of Allah. And they're like, motive? What's the motive? We don't know the motive. So notice, nobody's talking about the so-called religion of peace. It seems to me that this guy, his interpretation of the Quran, and he cited chapter and verse, literally chapter and verse, told him, you got to kill the disbelievers. And on top of that, the mosque that he attended has direct ties to CARE, in which the instructions were given to every congregant. I know I've said it before, but to me, this is unbelievable. The FBI wants to ask you about Jabbar. You don't tell them a thing. Refer everything to CARE. The media wants to ask you about Jabbar. You refer to CARE. You say not a word. So CARE is now speaking on behalf of the mosque, and the FBI is okay with that? Like, I'm sorry, don't you have to interview witnesses? Don't you have to interview people he knew? I don't know. Maybe some people helped him. Maybe some people were part of it. But you're just going to take CARE's word for it? This political correctness is going to kill us. Islam is not a religion of peace. It never has been. It never will be. Until it has a reformation, like Christianity had a reformation, like Judaism had a reformation, like other religions have had reformations. Until they have a fundamental reformation, it will remain a medieval religion stuck in the Middle Ages. And that's what this Jabbar guy essentially was. He became a medieval barbarian who had no qualms. I mean, I want you to think about this. You know, and this is not some guy on the fringes of society. He had every opportunity given to him. He served in the military. He advanced. He did very well for himself in the tech sector. He worked in some of the best, largest, most profitable tech firms in the United States. He was making over $125,000 a year. And that's not $125K in Boston or New York or LA. This was in Texas, which is, you know, property there is, believe me, housing and property and rents are much cheaper there than they are here. So he was making a very good salary. He graduated from Georgia State University. He was educated. There's no reason for this man to suddenly conclude the only way out for him is to start murdering his fellow Americans. But the deeper he got into radical Islam, into militant fundamentalist Islamic ideology, his brother said he became unrecognizable. The husband of his second wife said he became unrecognizable. The more he got immersed in that mosque, the more he got immersed into militant Islam, the more violent, the more radical, the more destructive he became. And the culmination, 14 dead on Bourbon Street. 617-266-6868. Robert in Anchorage, Alaska. Thanks for holding, Robert, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff.
My pleasure.
My condolences to you and your family on your father's passing.
Thank you, Robert.
I wanted to mention that I listen often to three people: Larry Johnson, Ray McGovern, and Gilbert Ductaro. Are you familiar with them?
Larry Johnson, I know. The other two, I've heard their names, but I don't know much about them.
These three men have podcasts, and they are interviewed by people like Nima Akharshid and what's his name? Some judge something. Okay. Anyways, all of these men are what I consider whistleblowers. They are former CIA, FBI, military people that have been involved with all of the government, our government, and are now explaining how dirty the CIA and the FBI are. And it's amazing that they aren't being censored, but they're being interviewed by people from other countries. Anyways, a couple of things that were mentioned is like the man in Las Vegas. He supposedly committed suicide by using some sort of a large gun or cannon. What was explained, I think it was by Larry, is that there is no way you can commit suicide with that type of weapon. It would have gone, you wouldn't be able to go and hold it. When it would be shot, it would completely misfire and shoot something else. The other thing that was mentioned is the terrorist in New Orleans. His specialty in the military was in communications. He had no training at all about weapons and bombs and stuff like that. And that both of these men were in the military leads a lot of suspicion that both of them were set up by the CIA or FBI, that it was done as a distraction. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've heard the argument. By the way, much of what you say I agree with, Robert. So I just want to say that right from the outset. People say, well, it's a distraction. I'm like, well, a distraction from what? Trump is going to be inaugurated in 14 days. I will probably get to this tomorrow. I know there was a big split between Trump and Ramaswamy and the MAGA base over H-1B visas. Okay, but why would Biden get involved with that? Why would the FBI get involved with that? Why would the CIA get involved with that? So the question is, what are they distracting us from? And to me, I read it the other way. I think this is just the beginning, the surface of the corruption that you rightly describe in the CIA, in the FBI, in all of the agencies. And when you have this kind of corruption, these are the kinds of consequences you get. This was a guy that was completely off the radar, who should have been on the radar. Literally, the FBI exists to stop stuff like this. And the more we find out, this guy was screaming jihadist. I mean, he was yelling it almost from the rooftops. And yet, again, right through the cracks. Again. And, you mentioned his specialty was communications. You're completely right. So how does he get a hold? Forget being able to make these bombs. How does he get a hold of these kind of rare chemical compounds that even in the United States, people are saying, we've never seen stuff like this? Across Europe, the Germans deal with very sophisticated terrorists all the time. The Brits deal with very dangerous, lethal, sophisticated terrorists. The French, I mean, my God, the Muslim Brotherhood has penetrated half of France. They stop and disrupt terrorist attacks almost on a daily basis. And they're saying, these are the kinds of compounds we've never seen in Europe. And this guy's got it in his trailer park in northern Houston, north of Houston. Tied to a very radicalized mosque, which is tied directly to the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to start connecting the dots. And then we find out the guy who's apparently going bankrupt, that's one of the reasons why he lost his mind. He had such massive debts. But he's taking trips to Cairo, Egypt, visiting the headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood. So where's he getting the money for that? And did they pass the compounds off to him? I mean, hello? This is what I mean, Robert. We have an FBI that has become a total joke. The terrorists are walking among us, and they're doing nothing. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask all of you, what do you make of the terrorist attack that took place New Year's Day in New Orleans? 14 dead, 35 injured, many of them in intensive care, and this bombing, the blowing up of the Cybertruck in Las Vegas, right in front of a Trump hotel, the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, by a member of the Green Beret Special Forces, Matthew Leibelsberger. Do you believe there was any kind of a connection? 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are loaded. Who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Eddie in Chelsea. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff. You are a legend.
Hi, Eddie.
You are in full form over the air after such a tragic week.
Thank you, Eddie.
Well, you do have our love and support. Hopefully, we just get stronger from this point.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it. Eddie, what do you make of all this, my friend?
Well, the thing we need to know is that the country has been at war, and it started a long time ago when those who oppose our individual rights, who oppose God and free worship, decided to bring it down. And we had a former president who actually said that he wants to bring the country down. And I think we may know that guy by a name like what's his name? Obama. So that guy was one of the people who supported this type of activity. And as of those last acts of terror that we had, not counting the third that nobody's talking about, the thing we know that these two guys were not deep state actors. For some reason, they decided to take action. And I think that's why the FBI is at a loss to say exactly what's going on and keep the story straight, because those guys were not their guys. They didn't know how to control them, and they don't have the right narrative to keep the country distracted. So
Eddie, as I'm thinking as you're talking, because you're starting to connect some of the dots. I'm just going to pick a year randomly, okay? 1960. If we could go back in time, if you and I could go back in a space capsule or a time machine or whatever, and you were to tell people in 1960, John Kennedy's now, and he's the president, and we're in the Cold War. You better be careful if you walk the streets of, New Orleans, or take your pick, because you could get killed by an Islamic terrorist. They say you're crazy. They say you're nuts. There are very few Muslims in the United States, very few who practice that religion, number one. Number two, our FBI would be all over it. I mean, they'd be over someone like that. Your head would spin. They would say it's unfathomable. But look at the world now that we've been forced to accept over the last 25 years, Eddie. Okay, just objectively. Twin Towers coming down. Airplanes being hijacked. 3,000 Americans killed. Nightclubs in Orlando being shot up by crazed Islamic terrorists. San Bernardino, just buildings being attacked randomly. People being shot on the streets. Cars running people over. Trucks running people over. Bombs being dropped off and blowing people up at marathons, at the finish line. Pressure cooker bombs. Now it's you can't even celebrate New Year's. Your only crime is you were out with your friends celebrating the New Year, and all of a sudden you're walking on the streets minding your own business, and some lunatic in a white pickup truck mows you down, flying the ISIS black flag. And the FBI is so freaking incompetent and so useless and so woke and so corrupt that they're telling you, no, this wasn't a terrorist attack. I mean, that's like saying the sky is black. And this is the world now that we live in, that we have to just accept this. And whenever we say, this is, as you put it, unacceptable, this is not what our forefathers wanted, this is not the country that we want, we don't need to live like this, they keep telling us diversity is our strength. They keep telling us that Islam is a religion of peace. That the more Muslims we bring in, the more peaceful we become. And it doesn't matter. Look at Britain now. They're overrun with Muslims. Violence, division everywhere. France, overrun with Muslims. Same thing. Germany, another attack at the Christmas market. This time by another crazed Islamic terrorist. And he just came in there and just mowed them down. They just drive and And by the way, and that guy was a doctor. The one in Germany was a doctor and a Syrian refugee. So they allow these refugees to come into Germany, and the guy's a practicing doctor. And doesn't matter. Allah Akbar, he's got to run some Germans down and kill them. Now, there's got to be a certain point where you say, you know what? It's not a religion of peace. Stop lying. Diversity is not our strength. Stop lying. And stop telling me that the FBI is a serious, credible organization. Because if you can't tell whatever, my Ava at 12 could tell you, right, well, that's a terrorist attack, Daddy. If it walks like a terrorist, talks like a terrorist, acts like a terrorist, it's a terrorist. But not according to our own FBI. But according to the media and according to the Democrats, the problem is Kash Patel. The problem is you. The problem is Trump. The problem is that Trump wants to drain the swamp and get rid of these idiots. So, Eddie, look, we got a lot of serious problems, but I think our biggest problem is, look how we've allowed ourselves to decline, to accept living in a way that we wouldn't have accepted it, forget 60 years ago, even 30 years ago. But now we put up with things we never would have put up before as a country. Am I wrong, Eddie?
You're not wrong. Just like you say, you are 1,000% correct. So those three-letter agencies have been running the country. That's why they've put out all those narratives through all those different channels, the different means, the different programs that they do to calm the population and pacify us into believing that everything's going to be okay. Let them handle it. We just go about our shopping. We don't need to worry about anything else. But that's what they use. They use our freedom to destroy us. Just like the communists said, they will use the rope that we sell them to hang us.
Oh, you're dead on. Eddie, you're absolutely dead on, and thank you very much for that call. And look, since I'm in Canada, Montreal, today we're going to be burying my father, finally with his urn and my mother's urn. We're going to put them together. So I've been around now the last week. Montreal is a very different city than what I grew up in, that I was born and raised in. I can tell you this right now. Full of Muslims. Everywhere you go, women wear hijabs. Everywhere you go, Arabic is spoken. Here, went to church last night. Beautiful Italian church. Okay, because it's hard to get a 5 o'clock mass. Long story short, I was really drained from the wake and the funeral. So we said, let's go to the 5 o'clock mass so I can get a little bit of rest and spend some time mourning just by myself. So we go to a 5 o'clock mass. Hard to find the 5 o'clock mass. Well, there's one in the old Italian quarter of Montreal. This used to be Italians. Right across from this church, massive Islamic center. All the Italians are gone. Everybody in now are from Morocco. They're from Algeria. They're from Egypt. They're from Syria. Justin Trudeau, who, by the way, may be resigning today. That's the big news in Canada, just so that all of you know. The reports are that he may be announcing his resignation. We shall see. He has flooded this country with Muslim refugees. Okay, flooded Canada with Muslim refugees from Syria. They are everywhere. Everywhere. The men are everywhere. The women are everywhere. Burqas, hijabs. You never saw this. Even 35 years ago. Now, the Italians are gone. The Greeks are gone. The Poles are gone. The Asians are gone. But you've got Muslim Arabs in particular everywhere. And as I said to Grace last night after Mass, look at this beautiful area, how it's slowly now becoming run down. When the Italians came, like every other immigrant group, they brought their customs and their traditions with them. So what did they bring? The construction. Montreal has some of the best construction in the world. because the Italians knew how to build a really nice home or a building or whatever. They brought fashion, tailoring, clothes, know-how, obviously restaurants, food. I'm not just talking pizza. I'm talking some of the best Italian food you can possibly have. Their children became educated, doctors, lawyers, notaries, accountants, entrepreneurs, business people. I could go on and on. I want to see what the Muslims bring with them now to Montreal. What are they bringing? Because so far, I'll be honest with you, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Many of them are on welfare, if you want to know the truth. And that was the other thing. The previous waves of immigrants, I don't care, Italian, Greek, Irish, Eastern European, Asian, Haitian. There's a lot of Haitians. I don't know one Haitian on welfare. But Germany now, they got a big problem. 80% of the Syrian refugees that they brought in 9 years ago, it's 9 years now, 80% of them on welfare. Here in Montreal, many of them still on welfare. So they're on welfare, I can see that. And outside of building mosques, and there's a lot of them, and Islamic centers, I don't see the quality construction. I don't see the tailors. I don't see the fashion. I don't see the incredible restaurants. I don't see the doctors and the lawyers and the accountants and I don't see that. I'll be honest with you. I don't see it. The entrepreneurs, I don't see it. What I do see and what I do hear is a lot of hate. Hate for Jews. A lot of anti-Semitism now in Montreal. A lot of anti-Semitism. Yeah, I'm just speaking Montreal because I know, and that's what I've been hearing out of last week. A lot of anti-Semitism. They don't like Christians. And I got to tell you, they're not big fans of Canada. Just like they're not big fans of Germany or big fans of America or big fans of England. So this is what I find bizarre. You let them come into your country, and instead of saying, thank you, no, they think they own it. And they hold you in contempt because they believe you have the wrong faith. And for them, having the wrong faith is everything. They believe that their faith ultimately makes them superior. Islam means submission. Not just that you submit to Allah, but that everybody must submit to Allah. And if you don't, you're an infidel. That's what drove Jabbar, to commit that atrocity in Bourbon Street. He wasn't killing human beings. As far as he's concerned, he's killing infidels. That's like killing animals or insects, as far as he's concerned. They're subhuman. They're less than human. Now, that's what the West is willingly importing into their countries. What sane civilization would do that? What, seriously. And then, as I always mention this every time I debate someone who's a devout Muslim, who goes on about how intolerant the West is, as we keep bringing them in more and more, I turn around and go, so tell me, which Muslim countries allows, I don't know, Jewish synagogues? Can you name me one? Christian churches? Where do they allow the Christians to pray? Saudi Arabia? You can't even be seen wearing a cross. Where? Iran? Where? Show me where. Afghanistan? Show me where. Kuwait? Qatar? Just show me where. Unless you have a secular military dictatorship that forces secularism on the country, that's the only way. Otherwise, if the country is run by practicing faithful, devout Muslims, it's Sharia law every time. There's no tolerance for Christians, no tolerance for Jews, no tolerance for non-Muslims of any kind. So, you want us to be tolerant, but you'll never be tolerant to us. Well, I'm sorry. Tolerance is a two-way street. So, I'm sorry. The question now that Muslims have to answer is Islam compatible with Western civilization? Is Islam compatible with democracy? Is Islam compatible with living in America or living in the West? And so far from what I've seen, I think the answer is pretty obvious. It's no. I mean, look, forget the fact that Jabbar was a terrorist who killed 14 people in the name of Allah, in the name of Islam. Okay, forget that. Forget that he quotes a specific passage from the Quran to justify his act of terrorism. Let all that go. Just let it go. Okay, all of that. Just let it go. Look at the reaction of the mosque that he regularly attended. I don't care. Take your Christian church, pick your denomination. Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox Christian, Adventist. I don't care. Take your pick. I'm serious. Lutheran, Episcopalian, Methodist, Evangelical, doesn't matter. Okay? Same thing. Orthodox Jewish, conservative Jewish, liberal Jewish, it doesn't matter. If someone in that congregation committed a vile terrorist act, every priest, every pastor, every rabbi would say, you want to speak to the congregants? Please, go ahead. Please. I'll tell you everything I know. I'll encourage the congregants to speak to the media, to speak to the FBI. Please, we are willing to cooperate in every way, shape, or form. We want to find out if there's anybody else that is complicit, was helping him, was an accomplice, collaborated, cooperated. We are here at your disposal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Instead, these guys care. No. Everything through care. You don't say a word, like a bunch of thugs. You don't say a word to the media, to the FBI, to law enforcement, everything through the Council on American Islamic Relations. By the way, the biggest Hamas supporters you'll ever find. So people that actively support genocidal murderers. No, they do the talking for us. That's not assimilation. That's not respect. That's not tolerance. That's not diversity. That's not saying we want to be part of your country, your society, we want to assimilate. We're all human beings and we're all equal under the law. We're all fellow citizens. No, this is religious supremacy. Now, no one has the guts to say it. I'm going to say it. That's the problem. Now, you can't square this circle until we have the guts and the courage to go to the Islamic leaders, the clerics, to go to the mosques and tell them, I'm sorry, your religion has a very serious problem. It's not peace. It's not tolerance. It's not mutual acceptance. It's constant bombings, vehicle attacks, people getting plowed, bombs blowing up, dynamite vests, and jihad. That's the problem. Now, that's your problem. That's not our problem. But if you keep making it our problem, then I'm sorry, let the East be East and let the West be West. You know, you can say whatever you want, as I said to Grace last night, about the previous waves of immigrants. Okay, whatever you want to say. The Italians, the Greeks, the Eastern Europeans, the Jews, the Asians, the Haitians. I'm just talking Montreal now, okay? They all assimilated. Some maybe a little faster, others a little slower. Maybe some groups rise a little higher, a little faster. Whatever, okay. But everybody assimilated. Everybody. Except them. But you're not allowed to say that. Well, why am I not allowed to say that? And until we confront that, the terrorist attacks are going to continue, and the bodies are going to continue to pile up. And that's why I want the FBI not just cleaned out. I want the truth exposed. I want to know if Shamsuddin Jabbar was on the FBI's radar. Did they suspect that this man was an ISIS terrorist? And I want to know if it's true that he only converted the last couple of years. Or was he, remember that Fort Hood guy? The Fort Hood terrorist who slaughtered all of our fellow soldiers in Fort Hood, Texas? The guy literally was walking around with T-shirts, calling himself a jihadist, and going on about the need to kill infidels. And they kept promoting him and promoting him and promoting him, and everybody's playing stupid. I want to know if he was already a radicalized jihadist while he was still in the military. I want to know how many people turned a blind eye. Because that's what woke ideology and political correctness has done. It has blinded us. It has crippled us. It has paralyzed us. And because of this, 14 Americans are dead. 9:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. You know, it's a strange way to phrase it, but I'm going to phrase it this way, I think, for people to understand how serious the situation is regarding the Islamization, not just of the United States or even Canada, where I am right now, broadcasting today, but from the West and of Europe in general. 16 years ago, I lost my mother. As you know, I've lost my father, died recently from a very long battle with Parkinson's. And 16 years ago, I lost my mom after she suffered a long battle with pancreatic cancer. And as I'm reminiscing and reflecting on my dad and his life and things we did together and moments that we shared, I can't believe how quickly the 16 years have gone by since my mom passed away. I just, honestly, where did the 16 years go? I don't know where they went. It went by in a blur, in a flash. Now, you're saying, well, Jeff, why the 16 years? Why? Well, this is why. I want you to listen to this. This is a text from 617. By the way, you can text us 70470, and this is the text, this is from 617. Jeff, because I'm talking about the Islamization of Montreal, the Islamization of Canada, how many Muslims have now poured in, especially under Justin Trudeau, and I think the dire consequences, like we saw in Bourbon Street in New Orleans, for this country, for America, and really for the West. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? Jeff, if the current trends in birth rates and immigration numbers continue in Canada, i.e., if they keep importing so many Muslim migrants, along with Muslims having this much higher birth rate than native Canadians, if this continues, if the trends, these numbers hold up, Canada will become a majority Muslim nation by 2040. Essentially 15 years from now. Okay? Not 16, but, ballpark. 15 years from now. 15 years from now, if birth rates and immigration numbers continue in Canada, and by the way, it's not just Canada, it's Britain, it's France, it's Italy, it's Germany, it's most countries in Western Europe. Now, I want you to think of that. Now, that's when my mother passed away. Basically, 15 years ago. It goes by, it's not 100 years from now. 15 years goes by so fast, it's a blink of an eye. Basically, my next funeral. Okay? The next time I attend someone's funeral, I'll be in a Muslim majority country. And as the texter says, consider that very seriously. Is this what Canadians want? Let me ask you. Is this what Americans want? Is this what the British want? By the way, Ireland now, same thing. Ireland now, massive migration, predominantly Muslim. Very low birth rate in Ireland as well. Is this what the Irish want? Is this what the French want? Is this what the Italians want? Is this what the Germans want? And all of this is being orchestrated by our globalist elites. And it's a deliberate plan. Oh, this is not happening by accident. Now, remember, they're not pouring migrants into China. They're not pouring migrants into India. You know, there are very wealthy countries in the Middle East, in some ways wealth per capita wealthier than we are. Kuwait, very wealthy. Qatar, very wealthy. United Arab Emirates, very, very wealthy. Saudi Arabia, I mean, they're swimming in oil, very wealthy. You go there, I'm not kidding you, you know, Mercedes, BMWs, I mean, luxury cars, I mean, you know, every second person is driving a luxury car. My point being, how come they don't take any immigrants from the West? Or how come they don't take migrants from Africa? Or how come they don't take Muslim migrants from the rest of the Middle East? No, they dump it on the West. It's deliberate. It's not by accident. Now, someone mentioned this earlier, and this now needs to be said. One of the most disgusting acts of Biden's presidency is the way this guy is going out. Because one of the key architects of this globalist, unlimited third world immigration, of open borders, of the destruction and erosion of national sovereignty, has been George Soros and the Clintons. Hillary Rotten Clinton has been one of the leading mouthpieces for the globalist regime for the last 30 years. And George Soros has been one of the key architects of the deliberate destruction of America and of the West in general. Well, what did Joey do over the weekend? Unbelievably, he gave both Hillary Clinton and George Soros the highest civilian award you can possibly give someone, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He put it around George Soros's neck, and he put it around the Hildebeest's neck. Now, let's just take Soros, because he's the billionaire sugar daddy, the mega donor of the Democrat Party. This man, anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-free speech, pro-crime, he gets the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Are you kidding me? 9:31 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so let me throw this log on the fire. I'd love to hear from you, Kuhner Country. Does George Soros deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Does Hillary Clinton, Hillary Rotten Clinton, the Hildebeest, does she deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Because that's exactly what they got Saturday from Joe Biden, who awarded both of them, including 17 others, 19 in all, the highest civilian honor you can bestow upon anybody. To me, it is insulting. It is disgusting. It is evil. It is a complete slap in the face. Now, Hillary Clinton, we all know. I mean, that even goes beyond, you know, you don't have to even say anything. George Soros? What this man has done throughout his entire life to destroy not just America, but Western civilization itself, This man who spent hundreds of millions of dollars to put soft on crime DAs in power, murderers getting off scot-free, rapists, billions of dollars in far-left causes, billions of dollars to far-left parties like the Democratic Party. This man who made it his mission to destroy America, to destroy free speech, to make crime a way of life, to declare war on fossil fuels and the prosperity and standard of living of the West. This man who made it his mission to open up the borders of Europe, America, and Canada, not just to unlimited third world immigration, but to Muslim migration in particular. This man, seriously, who said he wants to bring America to its knees, and you reward him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom? And to me, what is incredible, even though he's Jewish, to me, this is the part that I just can't wrap my mind around, who openly collaborated with the Nazis in Hungary during World War II. And what I mean by openly collaborated, he walked around with the SS, pointing out Jewish homes for them to confiscate and then to round up Jews and send them to the death camps. And then when pressed about it, saying, well, do you feel any guilt? I mean, how many thousands of Jews you sent to their gruesome deaths? And he said, no. This Nazi collaborator who sent his own people to the gas ovens? And this SOB gets the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Joe Biden? January, I know today is certification day. Okay, and that's it. They can't stop it after today. After today, President Trump, thank you, Jesus, is going to be certified as the next president of the United States. But I'm telling you, January 20th cannot come fast enough. And honestly, if Trump's people are listening, and I generally don't like to do this, really, I give the president wide latitude and discretion. You want to give someone the Presidential Medal of Freedom, that's your prerogative. But whoa. Trump, if they're listening, rescind this Presidential Medal of Freedom for both Soros and Hillary Clinton. I mean, what's next? Benedict Arnold? Posthumously, we'll just give him a Presidential Medal of Freedom? Like, seriously. You know, the Rosenbergs? You gave Stalin our nuclear secrets to give the communists the bomb. Ha ha! Let's give you the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. I mean, this is beyond disgusting. This is a slap in the face. And so, to President Trump and his people, if you're listening, I never thought I'd be saying this. Revoke that Presidential Medal of Freedom. In fact, it's the exact opposite. This guy, Soros, belongs in the dock for crimes against humanity. He can't step foot in Hungary because they'll try him. He can't step foot in many European countries because they'll arrest him on the spot. And Joe Biden is giving this guy the Presidential Medal of Freedom? So, let me ask you, does Soros deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Does Hillary Clinton deserve the Presidential Medal of Freedom? And when Trump comes in on his first day, should he revoke it? Should he rescind it? I say yes. What say you? 617-266-6868. Who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Rick in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. Hey,
hi, Rick.
This thing with all these Muslims and all that stuff that have been invited in here by our NGOs. I mean, this all looks like 9/11 all over again. 9/11 wasn't done by people. It was blown up from internally with a nuclear thermal bomb.
Well, and your point is that they want to do more 9/11s. That's the whole point, to bring in more terrorists, and then they can keep going with the Patriot Act and keep repressing our freedoms. Is that the ultimate end game? In your view? Rick?
Yeah.
Oh, you think that's what it is?
Yeah, I think it's a false flag. So Israel, who is bombing the hell out of every one of their neighbors, why is that going on? Why are they bombing all their neighbors?
Well, Rick, they're bombing their neighbors because their neighbors want to exterminate them. Because everywhere, look, wherever Islamists seize power, wherever radical Muslims seize power, they always want to wipe out the Christians and the Jews. That's why it's no accident that whether it's Hamas, or whether it's Hezbollah, or whether it's Al-Qaeda, or whether it's the Muslim Brotherhood, or whether it's ISIS, that they want to annihilate every Jew and every Christian from the planet. So, this idea that if we sacrifice Israel, that we can appease the Islamist monster, all you're going to do is just whet the Islamist monster's appetite. Remember, in their view, Israel is the little Satan. We're the great Satan. And when you press them, why are we the great Satan? Because they'll tell you openly. You see, Rick, it doesn't matter what our liberal elites think. Our liberal elites hate the fact that we're a Christian country. They hate our Christian roots. They want to destroy every remnant of Christian America. But that doesn't matter. In the eyes of the Islamists, they see America as the linchpin, the backbone of the Christian West. So to conquer the West, they have to conquer and destroy and defeat America. That's why America is the great Satan. And look, they call this immigration jihad. That's what they openly refer to it in the Middle East, in North Africa, in the Muslim world. Flood Europe and flood North America and Australia and New Zealand. So all the countries of the West, flood them with Muslims. In other words, Ilhan Omar's, Rashida Tlaib's, and eventually they become the majority, and then they destroy and subvert it from within. That's their ultimate plan. And it's Islamofascism. That's what it really is. It's Islamofascism. And just like George Soros collaborated with the Nazi fascists in World War II, he's now collaborating with the Islamofascists to open up our borders and to flood our country with all of these Islamists and potential Islamic terrorists. That's why I look at someone like Soros getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I'm not kidding. That's like giving a collaborator, a Nazi collaborator, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And again, it just shows you the hatred that Joe Biden and the Democrats have for us. Rick, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Mike? John in Boston. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Good to hear you. I just was thinking, I thought it was the Presidential Award for Freedom was only for citizens. And George Soros isn't a citizen, is he?
No. That's an excellent point. John, I didn't even think of that. But that's true. It's supposed to be only for citizens.
God, it's the highest presidential award. So, I don't know. That's all I was thinking.
No, he gave it to him. You know why? As a thank you for everything Soros did for Joey, for the Biden crime family, for Obama, for the entire Democratic Party. He's been their sugar daddy, their mega donor for decades. Without him, they would have been nothing. So they just paid him back with our highest award as he continues to seek our destruction. More next. 9:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Rob in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
sorry
Rob.
for your loss. Very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob.
Things. You're welcome. A couple things. Hopefully this will be over in 14 days, and hopefully Patel can get rid of this FBI. I think they're as corrupt as can be. In regards to the gentleman that called about 5 calls ago talked about taking God out of the picture. I think that's the beginning of this whole mess. And hopefully Trump can turn this around. Regards to your poll, I don't think it was connected. I think the New Orleans was a terrorist, and I really think that Vegas was a case of PTSD. So, that's it. Hillary and Soros, I hope that Trump can rescind that. I hope, that's my prayer, that we can get that thing rescinded and maybe put both of them in jail if possible. That's it. I just wanted to let you know, sorry, Ann, for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. And Rob, thank you again for your call and for your warm words and your condolences. Thank you so much. No, it's shameful. It's disgraceful. I'm going to be honest with you. It's disgraceful. I mean, I couldn't believe it. When I read it, I go, is this a joke? He's going to get... I thought he gave Liz Cheney the second highest civilian award. I said, you got to be kidding me. But this... Hillary Clinton and George Soros, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I'm sorry, he's giving the country the middle finger. That's what Joe Biden is. That's like, here, kiss it. Right here, baby. Here it is. I mean, that to me is beyond disgraceful. And look, leave aside everything else. You're going to give a known Nazi collaborator, a proud Nazi collaborator. It's not even like he collaborated with the Nazis and he said, I renounce it. I'm so sorry. I'm contrite. I'm penitent. No. He defends it to this day. He's an unrepentant Nazi collaborator. And you're sticking that medal around his chest? Around his neck? Holy mackerel. A guy that in multiple European countries, because he's done such damage to them, that if he steps foot, they're going to arrest him on the spot? I mean, that shows you the corrupting influence of money and how the Democrat Party is owned lock, stock, and barrel by the globalists. And he just unashamedly, he just sticks that medal around the guy's, around his neck and puts it on his chest. Trump's got to rescind it. This is a black mark, honestly, on the United States. 617, agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Carol in Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carol, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. So sorry for your loss. My prayers have been
Carol.
with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I just want to say, let us not look at the fact that Hillary's good buddy there, Umar Aberdeen is engaged to Soros' son. And they've been working with I believe it's been something since the Bushes, Obama, and the Clintons, and now Biden, administration working to bring forth Soros' whole dream of a brown race only of Muslims. So that's what he wants, to make to just see the world with more people, to eliminate the rest of us Westerners. But we need to right now look at getting rid of him. We need to throw out the Soros Foundation if we can and charge them with acts of treason. They all had offices that they were sworn into working for the government. We need to look at punishing them for what they've done to us.
Well, Carol, you make a great point, because you're right. I didn't even think of that, but there is a direct connection to Hillary. Huma Abedin is going to marry George Soros' son. And from everything I've read, Soros' son says, I'm going to be the heir and I'm going to keep up my father's legacy. So the Soros family is not going anywhere. And you want to talk about a group of political gangsters, a mafia family, a political mafia family. That's the Soros family, but with billions of dollars. And how a family, they don't just destroy one country. They destroy countless countries. And these people, they're as close to the definition of evil as you can come. And, as I said to one person many years ago, I said, to me, Soros is the devil. And the devil just got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That tells you everything. Honestly, you want to know but Joe Biden in a nutshell? That tells you everything you need to know. Just when you thought he couldn't go lower, he just did. You can't hate these people enough. Carol, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay, my friends, at 1 o'clock today, I am going to be finally burying my father along with my mother. And so this song by John McDermott, it's called The Old Man, sums up my feelings for my dad. Jack Kuhner, Dad, I love you, and I'll never forget you.
I'm